This needs assessment is on teen suicide prevention in Southeast Maricopa County by Amy Leiferman. The purpose of this needs assessment is to review suicide prevention efforts in Southeast Maricopa County schools, as 25 students were lost to suicide in one school year in this area. 5 of these suicides occurred at the same high school in Queen Creek, Arizona. Despite youth suicide being the second leading cause of death in 14 to 19-year-olds, suicide prevention training is not mandatory in Arizona schools, and Arizona has one of the highest suicide rates in the nation. Data collection for this needs assessment was through extensive literature reviews, suicide prevention organizations, national and state statistics, local news sources, and interviews. I obtained 2 out of the 5 interviews I had hoped for. Because it's summer intersession for all public schools, school social workers were unavailable until mid-July. Other organizations who offer suicide prevention services were unavailable to speak with me in the time frame due to schedule conflicts as well. Due to the importance of this topic, I will be continuing to conduct this needs assessment for my field placement as a high school social worker, which is in one of the high schools in this area. The interviews I did conduct were with Crisis Response Network's Shakira Piper, who has been an MSW for more than 20 years working as a crisis social worker. I also interviewed Christina Nguyen, president and co-founder of Project Connect 4. Ms. Nguyen has been a parent advocate in the community due to personal connections to youth who have attempted suicide and with parents who have lost children to suicide. During our interview, News Channel 15 called to interview her due to another teen suicide the day prior. This led to an additional hour of interview data I had not planned on, but was very helpful. 6 of my interview questions led to key findings regarding the cluster of suicides in this area and what the needs are in the community to address this issue. Suicide risk factors and challenges emerged as themes in areas related to social issues at school and home, poor coping skills, substance abuse, mental health issues, academic and athletic pressure, and the media, with social media playing an increasingly significant role. The contagion effect of suicide is another important key finding. The following suicide risk factors emerged as common themes during interview data collection. While Arizona doesn't have mandatory suicide prevention training for educators, schools with voluntary programs are not thorough enough, and schools are not doing enough to help kids in crisis. Bullying and cyberbullying are among the top risk factors, which increases with every new social media platform marketed to teens. Social media is also further isolating students from each other, as they have relationships that only exist in virtual reality. Social media is a highlight reel that can portray the perfect lives of students that others use as a comparison and feel they fall short. Additionally, nothing is ever erased. If a student makes a mistake or gets into trouble, it can make its way around the school in just a few hours. Ironically, all of the students in this cluster who died by suicide left signs on their phones or on social media apps that were missed or not taken seriously. Another interesting theme regarding the suicides in this area is most of the students were high achievers, athletes, and well-liked by peers. The pressure to succeed in academics and athletics in this area is intense. Data revealed both parents and teams aim to outdo each other in a keeping up with the Joneses type mentality, as this area has many neighborhoods that are more affluent in comparison to other parts of Maricopa County. Suicide is on the rise nationally for all sexes, but doubled in females in recent years. In this particular area, however, 23 of the 25 students who died by suicide were boys. This may be due to the fact that girls are more likely than boys to talk to their friends and family when they are experiencing problems, and additionally, boys choose more lethal methods for suicide. Overall, for every 1 completed suicide, there are 25 suicide attempts. Substance abuse is also on the rise, which is further increasing the risk for suicide. Data also revealed sexual minority students routinely experience more school victimization than any other group and has a high rate of suicide, which needs to be addressed at the middle and high school level. Many students are dealing with underlying mental health issues as well, such as depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and addictions, among others. The contagion effect is another theme that emerged in my data collection. Despite this is said to be uncommon in literature reviews, interview data has proved this to be inaccurate in this area. 5 student suicides from one school hint at a much larger problem within the school and social systems. Another emerging theme is the Netflix teen series 13 Reasons Why. This show centers around a high school student who commits suicide and leaves behind recorded messages to her peers of why she took her own life. The character is in every episode thereafter, which weakens the message that suicide is permanent. Within days of its release, the show was being criticized by suicide prevention experts concerned about the contagion effect. Literature reviews revealed Google queries about suicide rose by almost 20% within 19 days of the show's premiere, including such queries as how to kill yourself. Calls to suicide hotlines rose by 25%. In defense of releasing Season 2, show producers state it is opening up conversations about suicide and have disregarded experts' warnings that while this may be true, they are the wrong conversations. The number one recommended intervention is to make suicide prevention mandatory in Arizona. Until then, interventions can include challenging schools to add mental health education to their curriculums through classes, workshops, and assemblies. Focusing on character counts programs to increase kindness and empathy among students was stated as a need in both interviews. Another needed intervention is having an anonymous reporting system for teens to use if they see or hear a peer make reference to depression or self-harm, see a student being threatened or bullied, or if they are aware of a student abusing drugs or alcohol. Expecting a depressed student to reach out for help on their own has shown not to be effective according to the families of students who have been touched by suicide. Other recommendations include school coaches, nurses, and teachers using screening tools to expose mental health issues in at-risk students. Getting parents involved also must happen. Teens and parents are not communicating, parents are not monitoring their teens' phones, or parents are simply not educated on the signs and symptoms to look for. Reducing stigma about mental health and illness is critical and must be addressed at both school and at home. I will be sharing this needs assessment with both interviewees as a preliminary copy with the intent to gather more data from my original sources. Once it is expanded upon and completed, it can be used to educate school faculty, parents, guardians, and key stakeholders in the community, which I can do during my field placement. Key factors that contributed to my success of this assessment is I have both a personal and professional interest in this topic, making it more meaningful to me. For the past 20 years, I have been working with clients with eating disorders, which have the highest mortality rate of any mental illness, with suicide as a leading cause. In addition, to my field placement being at one of the high schools in this area, I have two of my own children who go to the schools affected by this suicide cluster. Key factors hindering the effectiveness of this assessment were the time and seasonal constraints due to it being summer intersession and not being able to obtain more interviews. The literature review is multifaceted, and with each area of research I found led to a new area requiring more research. That being said, the time limits of the project itself was not conducive for a topic with this level of complexity. A 30 to 60 minute presentation is more realistic once the expanded version is complete. Upon further reflection, this project has taught me how to conduct a needs assessment and given me further knowledge about this issue and what it will take to realistically share findings outside of this class. I quickly realized I had only scratched the surface of what this assessment needed to include. However, I'm excited to be able to continue to work on this needs assessment until it can be used in a professional setting. On a final note, if you or someone you know is struggling, please call the Crisis Response Network or any suicide prevention hotline. At the end of the day, a little hope can go a long way. Thank you.